Here at Fully Booked and Caffeinated, we love coffee, but there are so many options to choose from in the coffee game. So how can you narrow it down? Well, allow us to help. Afuera Coffee is a company that sources their specialty beans from Central and South America, and the environment is quite literally in every bean. The volcanic soil infuses each coffee bean with vibrant and unique flavors. They have a flavor for everyone based on your personal tastes. Bold espresso for me, smooth light roast for Heather. And that's not all. The best part about Afuera Coffee is the ethical sourcing and sustainable farming practices they use to give you the best coffee while still protecting Mother Earth. And there's more. 5% of all sales are donated back to charities that provide conservation efforts to the great outdoors. If you don't believe me, go to their website, afueracoffee.com, and click on the 5% pledge tab. They have some great info on how much their pledge to charity has already impacted the environment. So check out Afuera Coffee if you're looking for great tasting, vibrant coffee, and you can rest assured knowing that you're contributing not only to your own happiness, but to the environment that we so desperately need to protect. This is an exclusive discount for listeners of our show. Use our promo code to get 15% off any product at afueracoffee.com. That's AFUERA coffee.com. Use promo code CAFFPOD, CAFFPOD. Again, that's afueracoffee.com, promo code CAFFPOD for 15% off sustainable and ethically sourced coffee.
Here at Fully Booked and Caffeinated, Kelsey and I love a good strong coffee. But sometimes you just need a coffee to take the edge off and not keep you up all night, or maybe you're cutting back on your caffeine intake without sacrificing the flavor. Well, that's where Savorista Coffee comes in. Savorista Coffee offers premium craft decaf and half-calf blends that are small batch roasted for exceptional taste with ethically sourced beans, natural decaffeination, and bold flavors, such as the Colombian Inspiration Decaf with chocolate, caramel, citrus, and fruit notes, or the Barely Buzzed Half Calf with dark chocolate, toasted marshmallows, and walnuts, which is directly going into my shopping cart. Our listeners can enjoy an exclusive discount of 25% off any product with our promo code CAFFPOD. So head on over to Savorista.com and be sure to put in that promo code during checkout. Again, that's Savorista, Savorista.com, promo code CAFFPOD to try out what customers rave to be the best decaf coffee they've ever tried.
Hello, and welcome to your favorite bookish podcast, Fully Booked and Caffeinated. I'm Heather.
And I'm Kelsey.
And today we are discussing Simone St. James' supernatural thriller, The Sun Down Motel.
Sun
Down Motel. It actually sounds like a really good motel name, by the way.
And it sounds very 80s.
Yes, I agree, 100%. All right, before we get into it, what is your drink of choice today, this weekend, whenever?
Well, right now I have a Coke Zero, but we did go to one of our favorite coffee shops this weekend.
We did.
And I got a dirty chai, iced, obviously, and it was delicious, as usual. And it was $10 fucking, and I'm never going to stop complaining about the prices there, and I'm still going to go there, but I'm just saying.
I gotta say, the coffee's worth it for the price, because I haven't been disappointed yet.
If it was larger, they're so small.
Fair. That's
I'm like,
fair.
I need more coffee than this, you know?
That is a fair assessment. I will give you that.
Although on Saturday it didn't matter because I knew I was immediately going to go get an espresso martini.
So you're like, meh.
So I was like,
which
fine.
was also good.
Oh, the best espresso martinis there. Oh, I love them so much. Actually, yesterday I had a super, super, super dirty martini when we went out for dinner. And normally I don't like them, but this was like perfect.
So what made it super, super, super dirty?
It had it was basically all olive juice.
Oh.
And vodka. But
okay.
Mostly olive juice. And then she brought extra olive juice on the side.
Oh, wow.
This is the best day ever.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway, tell us about your coffee.
I'm currently drinking a raspberry sherbet Olipop, which I've been on my Olipop kick lately, and I do enjoy them. I know some people are poppy people,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I like the Ollipops better.
I haven't tried Poppy, but I've
I've
tried
had,
Olipop and I like them.
yeah, I've had one or two of the poppies. I know I had the Raspberry Rose, which I think was pretty good. And I can't remember the other one that I had. But I'm into the Ollipops, and they had like a cute little limited edition cans at Sam's Club for like the summer. So
Okay.
it's got like roller skates and a boom box. It's kind of retro looking, so
Okay.
it fits with the episode.
It sure does. I like that color
Mhm.
of that can. It's so pretty.
Yeah, and it's pretty good. I like it. So, anyways, cheers.
Cheers.
Simone St. James is a New York Times and USA Today bestselling author based out of Toronto, Canada. After years of writing and collecting rejections, Simone's debut novel, The Haunting of Maddie Clare, which you've read, we've discovered most of her books except for two.
Yes, and Haunting of Maddie Clare is actually my favorite.
Right? I feel like that was I feel like I knew that. I remember you like really liking that
never
one.
Shut up about that book. I love it so much.
Clearly I should have chose that one instead. I didn't have that one though. That was not on the book art. It won 2 Rita Awards for, which this was interesting. Was The Haunting of Maddie Clare romantic?
No.
Okay, because she won 2 Rita Awards for Romance Writers of America.
I mean, there was a romance plot through the whole thing.
Okay.
But it was like they never like acted on it till the end. It was just like sexual tension. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then she also got an Arthur Ellis Award from Crime Writers of Canada. So she got romance awards and crime writer awards for this book, it seems, specifically.
Wow. Okay. Didn't see that coming, but I like it.
I thought that was interesting. Simone spent 20 years behind the scenes in the television business before leaving to write full-time.
I thought you were going to say behind bars, and I was like, wow, this is taking a turn.
Behind the bars. She lives with her husband and a spoiled rescue cat. Love that. Love anything about cats. And she is addicted to sushi, rainy days, coffee, and My Favorite Murder. So she's just like us.
Literally just like us.
It's like, when you see those sayings, like, oh, celebrities just like us. Well, Simone St. James, just like us.
Damn right. I like it.
Okay, so our story graph, who's it for? By the way, I think I'm giving this one, I know I'm kind of giving a little bit of a teaser, but this is like a very high A for me.
Wow. Okay, let's hear it.
Maybe even an A+, but we'll see. A chilling paranormal mystery centered on the persistence of trauma and the ghosts of the past. Ideal for readers who enjoy medium-paced thrillers with a dark, tense atmosphere, dual timelines, and a blend of grounded detective work and eerie supernatural hooks.
Okay. It's so good, and it's not word salady.
No, like this is the best one we've had yet. It's like a perfect
description.
This is the best one we've had to date.
I feel like I need to write this down. Like I need to flag this moment.
I'll copy and paste it.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to make a TikTok about the story graph who's it for of all the books we've covered.
I really think you should. And then do like the rating system like we've been doing, because I think that it's interesting how some are so word salady and there's just an overusage of like descriptive words. But this one was pretty much perfection.
The AI is getting smarter.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And then the typical book description: something hasn't been right at the roadside Sun Down Motel for a very long time, and Carly Kirk is about to find out why. Upstate New York, 1982. Viv Delaney wants to move to New York City, and to help pay for it, she takes a job as the night clerk at the Sun Down Motel in Fell, New York. But something isn't right at the motel, something haunting and scary. Upstate New York, 2017. Carly Kirk has never been able to let go of the story of her Aunt Viv, who mysteriously disappeared from the Sundown before she was born. She decides to move to Fell and visit the motel, where she quickly learns that nothing has changed since 1982, and soon she finds herself ensnared in the same mysteries that claimed her aunt.
Okay, I like it.
I was doing a little bit of reading on like the story, and apparently you haven't read her new book, you said, right?
Not yet.
It takes place in Fell.
Oh, okay.
So she did another book in this like atmospheric town, but they're not related. So like this new story that she wrote, I think it's like A Box Full of Darkness or something. It doesn't have anything to do with like this story, but she's just went back to the fictional town of Fell.
Okay, that makes sense, because I know a lot of people, when they're talking about reviewing this book, that Fell is like its own character with its like atmosphere and stuff.
And I agree, because I even felt that like about like the book, aside from like the motel being its own character, it felt like the town was its own character as well, because it's the kind of place that no one leaves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was, I kind of like that she created another storyline out of that town specifically. And I think that that's something that she could continue to do, to be quite honest. But yeah, so that was a fun little thing that I just happened to like come across. I was like, oh, all right.
I like it. I got to move that up on my TBR.
Yes. And then let me know how it is, because, you know, I won't get to it for 5 to 6 years. Anyways, all right, before we get into it, shall we take an ad break?
If you've been a long-time listener of the pod, you know Kelsey and I are all about pop culture and the entertainment industry, and if you happen to be looking for a one-place stop to shop for officially licensed merchandise, we've got the place for you. Old Glory is the ultimate destination to shop, offering over 300,000 items for music, sports, entertainment, and pop culture fans. This family-owned superstore has provided high-quality clothing and accessories since 1969, featuring the world's most iconic bands, sports teams, fan-favorite apparel, and quirky gifts, which means there's truly something for everyone. With free standard shipping and same-day order processing, Old Glory delivers fast and reliable service with every purchase. So whether you are shopping for yourself or looking for that perfect gift, Old Glory is your one-stop shop for iconic, high-quality merch, and our lucky listeners will receive an exclusive 15% off any product with the promo code CAFPOD. So head on over to oldglory.com to begin shopping their wide range of high-quality merchandise and get that exclusive discount. Again, that's Old Glory, OLDGLORY.com, promo code CAFPOD.
If you're a listener of the pod, you know that Heather and I are booked and busy. We're always looking for ways to make our life easier and to boost our energy and focus, which is why we've got a company for you to check out called Strong Coffee Company. Their instant coffee and latte options not only provide a quick route to your delicious morning coffee, their blends are also infused with 15 grams of grass-fed protein, 5 grams of MCTs, 250 milligrams of adaptogens such as ashwagandha and theanine. If you're like, what the heck does all that mean? It means you'll be getting much better sleep, more mental clarity, and no jitters or crashes. Better sleep means more productivity and more energy to do things you love, like read and listen to this podcast. So if you're committed to being your best, healthiest self without giving up your daily cup of coffee, check out Strong Coffee Company. We've got an exclusive discount for you only for listeners of our show. Head to strongcoffeecompany.com and use promo code CAFPOD to get 20% off any product. This is the highest discount Strong Coffee offers, so make sure to use this code ASAP and let us know what you think. Again, that's strongcoffeecompany.com and use promo code CAFPOD.
And we're back.
We are.
The Sun Down Motel tells parallel stories of Viv Delaney in 1982 and her niece Carly Kirk in 2017. So we have a dual timeline, which I love. I'm always a big fan of dual timelines, and I have to admit that the way that this one was done was just really, really kind of like brilliant. Like it was very flawless. Like I feel like you weren't taken out of each, you know how sometimes when it goes from like one timeline to another and it jumps a lot, it feels kind of out of sorts.
Yeah,
and doesn't really match up to what you're reading.
Yeah, and there's always the possibility that obviously one timeline is better written or more exciting or whatever.
Yeah.
And these are like even. I think it helps a lot that you have the specific building that's being shared.
I agree. And so I really thought that this was one of the better timelines that we've read. And in their different timelines, both young women discover several secrets about the Sundown, who, as I just mentioned previously, is its own character, for sure. So while we have Viv and Carly as the main characters, the Sundown is an entity all of its own.
Sure is.
At the Sundown, there are ghosts that haunt them. But so it was so funny because like reading this, I immediately got like September House vibes. But like September House is more nefarious and creepy. And like this book definitely has like little creepy atmospheric tidbits, but not as much so as September House, because I feel like September House is like pure fucking horror. Whereas this is like, oh, these are just like ghost of a sundown, or they're just ghost of a place that kind of has unfinished business, but not to the people that are inhabiting it. It's just kind of like its own thing. So there is a young boy who hit his head and died from his injuries at the pool, and since that date the pool has been closed. So the pool's just
understandably
never been used before. There is a smoking man named Henry who died of a heart attack 6 months after he called 911 after finding that boy, after discovering his death. And then there is the big character of the Sundown, which is Betty Graham, who she was the first death at the motel, and her body was discovered during its construction. A little bit about the backstory to the Sundown is the town of Fell was in theory going to build like a big amusement park. And so it was supposed to become this touristy town. And the McNamaras, who, by the way, Simone St. James did this as a nod to Michelle McNamara, because she was like really into the book that she wrote that I am now blanking on. Jesus.
I'll Be Gone in the Dark.
Thank you. And so this was like her nod to her, because she really liked her work that she did. They bought this land to build the motel, and then the whole plan about the amusement park fell through. And so they were kind of stuck with like this desolate town with this motel. So already like bad juju going into it. And then of course, prior to it being fully constructed, there was a dead body found. So
I hate when that happens.
Oh, great. Betty does visit Viv and Carly when they are both respectively there in their timelines, and she warns them of danger and even speaks with them on occasion by doing heavy breathing over the phone and just saying the word run.
She's not very friendly.
No, she's not. And I mean, I wouldn't be either, to be quite honest. And Viv finds that she's unable to let go of Betty's mysterious death. And so she just kind of out of nowhere puts all her energy into like researching Betty Graham and the other mysterious deaths that have occurred over the past few years in the town of Fell. And it's kind of funny because Viv moved from, oh gosh, I just read this 3 days ago. Ohio? That's not right. Illinois? I think it was Illinois. I think it was Illinois. Who cares? Not relevant. So she moves to New York. She's basically trying to escape her kind of like controlling mother, and her dad, dipped out on the family. And so she wants to move to New York City to become an actress. And then she finds herself in Fell and then just doesn't leave.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is what she's doing with her time. Aside from being the night clerk at the Sun Down Motel, she has discovered that she now wants to be like a little sleuth. And similarly, in Carly's timeline, she's unable to let go of the mysterious disappearance of her Aunt Viv. So you kind of, again, have like these different women, but with the same idea in mind of what they're doing in Fell. And both women are frustrated with the lack of answers and dismissal of evidence and clues. And they also become more aware because of like the motel, and when it gets like those creepy moments randomly of just doors opening and closing and all these haunting supernatural entities that it has, they become aware of the dangers of being alone at night and the way that society portrays and treats women and the importance of trusting their instincts, which we will be returning to much later. But it is so interesting how she creates this atmosphere for both women. And like I said previously, even though they're both totally different stories and how they come together, it's just like really, really well done.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we haven't, I mean, I personally, I know you read more thrillers than I do as of late, but, and I know this is like an older book. It was released in 2020, but it just really handles the issues of what women face and how specifically when women are murdered, it's just it's not, if they find a perpetrator, they just automatically are like, okay, it was them, or they don't do enough research into it and everything like that.
Yeah, you can definitely tell from this that Simone St. James is a true crime girly.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many similarities between this and the Golden State Killer and the way, with what Michelle McNamara was writing about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so clearly someone who is aware of that because of an interest in true crime.
I know. And it was so interesting too, because before I had researched the book or the author, when I was reading this book, I was getting like Golden State Killer vibes. Like I was like, this feels like something out of like that universe of the things that we used to really be into. And then when I come to find out, I read it, I was like, oh, so she liked her. This makes a lot more sense to me now, like why I really resonated with this book. So in the town of Fell, there have been, over the course of the past 4-ish years, there have been a few murders of women specifically. So the first one we have was Betty Graham, whose body was discovered at the construction site of the Sun Down. And then there was Victoria Lee, who she was killed on a jogging trail. And the consensus was that her boyfriend did it. And that was all they wrote. It was the boyfriend. Couldn't have been anyone else. Mm-hmm. And then there was Kathy Caldwell, who was a mother of a young child, and her husband was in the military, so he was often deployed and not home. And she was found under an underpass. And they never found her murder. So Betty Graham and Kathy Caldwell, neither of their murders have ever been solved. And Viv is convinced that they're all connected. So our little actress has become a crime solver overnight. Which it happens.
Mm-hmm.
People
if
like
the cops
to get on
ain't gonna do it.
They get on those little Reddit threads and they're solving murders. So she gets help from a few people in the town. There is a female police officer, Alma Trent, who, of course, is the only police officer in Fell, and so she's automatically put on the night shift. Mm-hmm. And she works the night shift the entirety of her career up until retirement. So she never actually gets to be like a daytime detective. But like she admits in the story that she doesn't mind it because she kind of gets to mind her own. Like no one pays her any attention, so she can really do like whatever she wants. So there's, while she might not have the kind of recognition that she would want and feeling that she's able to be like a true full-on like police officer, she gets this kind of freedom being like a nighttime police officer and just kind of doing things on her own. So it's like a catch-22. Mm-hmm. You know, she can either deal with this and kind of revel in the freedom that she has, or she can go, or she can ask to be promoted and have to deal with men every single
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, and it's also a type of acceptance of like
Yeah.
making the best of it because
Mm-hmm.
they obviously don't respect her because she's a woman.
No,
So instead
absolutely.
of harping on it, she's just like, nah, I like it better this way anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a local photographer named Marnie who Viv catches her because she's scoping out. There's a couple who keep returning to the motel who are very clearly married to other people
Mm-hmm.
and they're
Mm-hmm.
just having an affair, and this is where they meet. And so she was hired by an attorney to follow these people and get pictures of them, and Viv just sneakily like creeps up on the car. And it's funny because she automatically assumes that it's a man, and come to find out it's a black woman. So,
Mm-hmm.
which was like a double whammy for her because not only was it a woman, but it's also a black woman. And of course, same thing. We're in this, this is like in the 80s, but and I think there was even a part in the book where Marnie brings it up, which that she's black, and she's like, "Oh, are you just surprised because I'm like a black woman that's like working,
Mm-hmm.
Because again, like in that time, it was still terrible." And her crush, well, not like her crush, but there's like this drug dealer that also continuously rents rooms at the motel. Listen, this motel, the people that come here, they're not of the best, but they're also like keep to their own and mind their own business. So it's not like anything. While there is creepy things happening at the motel, it's strictly only supernatural kind.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like, there's no, murders. There's no well, there is prostitution, but there's no like prostitution against people's own will
Mm-hmm.
in situations. And he is a drug dealer who sometimes meets with clients, and he like definitely like hits on Viv every once in a while, and Viv is very much like a virgin, and she finds him very handsome, but he's a bad boy and she's a good girl.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly she could never cross that line, but she does, and she loses her virginity to him at some point in the story.
Good for her.
Yeah. So those people she kind of uses as assistants throughout the book. And there is a man who continuously also checks into the motel. He is a traveling salesman, and he never checks in with the same name. So every time he checks into the motel, he uses a different name. And he's really the first creepy character we get that's like an actual human being coming to the motel. And, the first time he comes, Viv obviously thinks nothing of it. And like he does mention to her, he's like, yeah, I'm a traveling salesman. I'm definitely be here one night, might be a second night, depends when they call me and tell me where I need to be. And then when he comes in a second time, he's like, oh, you don't remember me? Like he's kind of like, I guess kind of like flirting with her, but she automatically gets a bad vibe off of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when she looks into the guest book, because this is an old school motel, by the way. There is no electronics, even in like 2017. Everything is still fully a handwritten guest book.
Mm-hmm.
And when she goes back, she looks at it and she realizes that this dude never checks in with like his actual name. So she doesn't know who she is. And due to her bad vibes, she automatically thinks that this dude has something to do with something, but she just doesn't know what yet. And she begins to look into the deaths of Betty, of Victoria, of Kathy, and she comes to the conclusion that all three of these women's murders are connected. And she does her own very smart sleuthing, by the way, where she looks up she like calls the salesman's company that he works for, and she's just finds out all this information way too easily, by the way. They like give him his like schedule.
Mm-hmm.
They tell her what salesman was, that they had a salesman in the area at this time. Like she's asking all of these questions because she is apparently a very good voice impersonator.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how she gets all this information. And she comes to find out that Simon Hess was in the area when Victoria Lee was murdered, that Betty Graham was last seen when a traveling salesman entered her home, and then that the Westlock Systems company that he works for installed a security system at Kathy Caldwell's house. So she finds all these specific things that have to do with this company, and she deduces that it's because of Simon Hess. So then this girl just follows him. She just first she goes to his house and like is just creeping around the house, goes into the vehicle, looks in his car, and then of course almost gets caught. I was like on the edge of my seat at some points. I was like, this girl's gonna get caught and she's gonna get murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And then she follows him to a different town, and she's just batshit crazy, if I'm being completely transparent. Like, has no idea what she's doing, and she's just following this potential murderer.
Mm-hmm.
No wherewithal, but she's doing it. She's doing it. And she finds him she witnesses him following a young girl named Tracy Waters. And Viv realizes that this is going to be his next victim. And she wants to protect this girl because she's maybe 17. Like, she's actually one of the young, like, Victoria was young. Victoria was like in her 20s, but like Tracy is definitely the youngest victim that Simon would be taking. And she tries to call the high school principal and say, hey, she's like being someone's mom. She's like, I saw this guy like lurking in around the school. Like, you should really, and I saw him specifically watching Tracy Waters. Like, you should do something about that. And of course the principal is like, yeah, sure. Like, I'll take care of that. It's an old man. And she also mails an anonymous letter to Tracy's parents, and is, like, hey, I saw this guy watching your daughter. Like, I just be careful. And she also tries to bring her theories to both Alma and Marnie. And Alma's kind of, she's dismissive in a way that it's almost like she's not jealous or envious that like she's figuring this out and not being like a police officer, but she's just kind of like, you don't know what you're doing, and a lot of police work went into X, Y, and Z, and you're not going to come into this town and just solve these murders. Like, she has like a realistic standpoint. Like, she's trying to tell Viv.
Yeah, but it's always such a pride thing. I mean, we see this in real life all the time, that like these cops obviously didn't do the legwork to find out these very simple things that she found out, that these are all linked to this traveling salesman. But God forbid anyone ever told them that they were wrong. So they'd rather just keep going after the wrong leads so that they don't have to say that they missed something.
Exactly. And that's the exact word I was looking for, pride. That's what it is. Like, she doesn't, she wants to, in that moment, stick up for her department.
Back the blue.
Exactly.
Boo.
But Marnie, on the other hand, completely believes Viv, but she's also like, your Icarus flying too close to the sun, and you need to like back off, because Marnie does sometimes follow Simon for Viv, and like she'll kind of give him updates and everything. So Marnie is on Viv's side, but she's also a smarter woman and is like, I'm not going to get involved in this. Like, I met a man. I'm trying to start a family and get married. Like,
yeah, Marnie's the smartest person in this whole book.
She really is. So obviously, despite Viv's attempt to stop a murder from happening, unfortunately Tracy's Waters' body is found, and Viv is of course positive that it's Simon Hess. And the night of the discovery of Tracy's body, Simon Hess does check into the Sun Down Motel.
Fancy seeing you here, Simon.
More on that later. So in Carly's timeline, she gets help from her roommate, who's named Heather.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, hey, girl. And there's also a man, because there always has to be a man. But now this makes sense. Now that you're saying that there was like a romance in The Haunting of Maddie Claire, I'm like, okay, so she low-key also likes romance, which is fine. I'm not, against it. But there is a man named Nick Harkness who is staying at the motel. And he's not necessarily checked in. The owner of the motel kind of just lets him stay as kind of like a favor in a sense. He is like paying to stay there because Nick Harkness, he's from Fell, and his father murdered his brother and like tried to like also like had plans to like kill Nick, and his dad's in jail. So he has like this tragic backstory that follows him. So obviously he leaves town and he's back in town. He just doesn't want anyone to know. So he's staying at the Sundown. And Nick also experiences the oddities of the Sundown. Like sometimes Betty just shows up on his bed. He's just like, cool. But he stays there specifically because this is the only place he's ever been able to sleep. He has kind of like a insomnia issue and he can never be comfortable anywhere. But for whatever reason, the Sundown calls to him.
Imagine the only place you can sleep is a haunted motel. That's crazy work.
Isn't that insane? And so there's an evening where Carly kind of first witnesses Betty and the doors, and Nick happens to see it all too. And so she is able to talk to someone who's witnessed it, and also she like tells Heather, and Heather instantly is like, oh, I believe you, because Heather also is from the town and she kind of knows the entire history of Fell, and she knows about the murders and everything. So now Carly kind of has these two people to help her out, and then she's going to the library and looking into old archives to look into like these murders from the 80s. And they slowly begin to piece together the connections between the deaths, just like Viv did. So it's like interesting because Viv solves it in her timeline, and then Viv disappears, and that's it. And then you have Carly in this present timeline, and she's basically doing the exact same thing and figuring it out. So again, it's like speaks to like it's almost like a familial, intuitive thing.
And it's crazy because both timelines have their positives and negatives, right? Like, yeah. Viv is obviously closer to everything happening, so anyone talking to her has fresher memories about it, and she's able to follow him and stuff. But then Carly in her timeline has the internet and the library and like all this stuff. So it's like, if only they could put their two brains together.
I know, right? There is this weird man, though, that shows up named Callum McRae, who is just at the library when Carly's there. And he's very odd himself, and he talks to Carly about how he's trying to create a database for the library because they haven't, they're very much outdated as well. And like I said, anything that Carly wants to find from this time frame, she has to go back to like old newspapers and things that you can't even find in like the electronic archives. And like Carly definitely kind of gets weird vibes off of him, but she kind of like brushes it under the rug, and I think she comes to this town of Fell and realizes that everyone is eccentric in their own way. And I think she just kind of like accepts it. And she herself is kind of an oddity, like her mother just recently died of cancer, and she wants to figure out the story of her aunt. So she's in this town trying to solve a mystery. So she's like, I myself am
have unusual hobbies.
Exactly. Heather eventually discovers that the night that Tracy's body was found is when Viv disappears. And so Carly's assumption in this moment is that Vivian is also dead, that there's no way that she's still alive, and that whoever killed all these other women definitely also killed her aunt. And they find this dilapidated barn. And then this, I was getting the Darcy Coates book vibes that we read, where they find like that weird ass barn and like the dead of the forest and the dead of winter is what it was called, actually. No, that just came to me. And I was like, oh, so they're just, so dilapidated barns are just common in thriller books.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect horror setting.
I know, it really is. And they find a car, and a body is very obviously in the trunk, because they discover a large pile of, could be oil, could be blood, probably blood, and there is a stench. And so they call it in, and she is convinced that is her aunt in that trunk. And so they call the police, they come, and then Carly learns that the body in the trunk is actually a male, not a female body. And in that moment, Carly realizes that her aunt definitely killed Simon Hess. And she would be correct. So Viv is beside herself over the death of Tracy. And she also knows that the spirit of Betty is angry that Simon is at the Sun Down Motel again. So whenever Simon, this is another thing I forgot to mention, whenever Simon himself checks into the motel, it is when the motel goes crazy. And obviously that's also how Viv kind of pieces it together. So with the help of Jamie, she lures Simon away from his hotel room so that she can find more evidence. But of course, she's not fast enough. And so Simon comes back and catches Viv with his suitcase, and she's just like, hi. And Simon's like, oh, it's you. You're who has been following me, because very clearly he is a man who is doing nefarious things. So while he's getting away with it, he still kind of has a look over his shoulder just in case. And he's very clearly has known that someone's been following him, but he just has never been able to pinpoint who. And Viv confronts Simon, and she wants to know everything. And Simon is such a fucking creep. And he was like, well, I killed Betty, and then I kept doing it because I got away with it. And I'm just like, this is the worst. And this is actually what happens, though. Once you get away with something like that, especially with men, it's a power trip. And they love
the confidence of a mediocre white man.
Literally. And they love a vulnerable white woman. Boy, oh boy, do they love that. Nothing gives them more joy and
a hard on.
Yep. Took the words right out of my mouth. Than a woman in distress or in like a lonely position.
Or a woman that they can get the best of.
Yeah.
Like a woman that they can prove wrong.
Literally. And so his like reason for killing Betty is that he was in love with her, and he just wanted to prove to her how much he loved her. And she was like, obviously like, bro, I'm good. I'll be a spinster. I don't need no man. But Simon, who was also married with a child, by the way, but still is obsessed with Betty, and his obsession leads to her murder. And then he realizes, oh, hey, I can rape and kill women all I want and get away with it. Because if I could get away with one, let me try two, then let me try three. How about a fourth? And very clearly, he would have continued on this journey had Viv, with the help of Betty, killing him. She stabs him, and she gets him to confess to everything. And then after he dies, this young girl tries to move this man's body from the hotel room. And she's just dragging him out. And then a car pulls up, and it's Marnie. And Marnie finds her attempting to carry this dead man's body down the stairs. And she was like, all right, girl.
Marnie's you are like, what did I tell you?
Literally. She's
about
like,
getting involved.
She's like, you are very clearly in over your head. Let me help you. And then Alma shows up. It's a goddamn party. And Alma's like, cool, because then also Alma realizes that Viv was right all along. And she kind of does a thing that you're not supposed to do when you're a police officer, but she turns the other cheek. And she's like, you weren't here. No one was here. No one was ever here.
You're damn right, Alma.
Yeah. And, because she feels guilty about not believing Viv, and after hearing about Tracy, like, she realizes that she was right all along. And so
by continuing to let Viv put herself in harm's way,
yeah,
instead of just believing her,
mm-hmm.
or not even believing her, but passing along her information on the off chance that it was true.
Exactly.
But her pride was too big, and now she put Viv in danger, and Tracy is obviously dead because of their negligence.
Exactly. So they take the car, they bring it to the barn, and they have Simon in the trunk, and then basically Viv has to fall face to the earth. She was never here. And so she's just kind of on the lam, basically, and which Carly doesn't really necessarily know, and no one really knows. Only people that know about this are Alma, Marnie, and Viv. So we circle back to present time, and we circle back to the weirdo Callum, because lo and behold, Callum is the grandson of Simon Hess.
Of course.
So that's why he was creepy, because he's the grandson of a serial killer.
He inherited the creepy.
Exactly. And once Callum realizes that it was Carly's aunt that killed his uncle, he's now obsessed with Carly, and kind of he just has this weird obsession about it as well that comes off as I'm gonna be completely honest, I didn't get Callum's point in the book when I was reading it, and even when this happened, I still kind of was like, I don't get it. This was probably the only plot point I did not like about this book, because then he just follows Carly, and so then Carly ends up at Alma's house because she wants to avoid him, and she's like, well, I'll go to a police officer's house. He's not going to come in and bother me there. And it's just Callum is kind of the town creep. That's kind of been the consensus of him. But then he ends up going to the motel, and Nick and Carly try to talk to him, and then he shoves her into the pool, knocks her unconscious, runs into the woods. Nick runs into the woods after him. So I guess that this was his character point was probably only needed for this specific instance. And so very clearly the motel gets very upset because Simon Hess's bloodline is now at the motel, because even though Simon was murdered, Betty still can't rest. Her spirit is still very angry and
because there's no justice. Exactly.
And so after Callum runs off and Carly comes to, she realizes that all the ghosts are awakening, and the little boy's in the pool, and he's kind of being more creepy than usual, and she's like, I gotta get out of here. She's like, I need to leave this motel. So she's like, I'm gonna go into the office. That's where my purse and car keys are. And then while she's in there, a new ghost appears, and it's Simon Hess's ghost, and he's there to check in. And you very clearly do not remember this.
Forgot that part.
Yeah. And, he checks in, and at this point, Carly's like, I need to get the fuck out of here. So she goes to her car without the car keys, and she's just trying to get a hold of Nick, and she was like, there's too much happening. And then lo and behold, good old Aunt Viv pulls up. She's like, Carly, get in the car. And Carly's like, oh my God, you're alive. I kind of knew that, but I didn't know where you were. So Carly's shocked because she sees that her aunt is alive, and she has just been hiding in plain sight in Fell, which again, but Viv was
impossible
able to do. But I think she's able to do it because she's an unknown figure in the town. She was a night clerk at the motel, so she didn't see many people. And she was either with she's either at home with her roommate, or she's out following Simon Hess.
Yeah, good point.
So no one can really pinpoint her, because she even says at one point that she like walked past her old roommate on the street and she didn't even bat an eye. So she was like unfortunately not very memorable, but it worked to her favor because she committed a murder.
And had to disappear.
Exactly. So Viv explains that she's changed her name and that everyone seems to have forgotten about her. And then Nick calls Carly and tells her that Callum is dead and that the motel is in chaos. So Viv and Carly go back to the Sundown, and
no one takes their job here seriously, by the way.
No. And so the Sundown is nearly collapsing. So this was a really fun part that I liked about the book, was when this all happens and the police and everyone come to the motel, they're very much like, this place is falling apart. Like, there's mold, there's like, the building is in disrepair, but because it was haunted, the people that were there, the motel was kind of, it almost had like a like facade over it. Yeah. And so that was why, like, when Carly shows up and she says in the very beginning of the book, it feels like because she sees pictures of the Sundown Motel from when like her aunt was there. And when she shows up, 20 odd plus years later, she's like, the place hasn't changed a bit. That's because it's basically keeping up its mirage since it was created due to like Betty and the haunting. But so when someone comes, they're like, this place is like dilapidated, like it needs to be taken down. And so then Viv and Carly kind of realize that Betty's destroying this place once and for all. Like I don't know if it was the fact that the satisfaction of Viv killing Simon and not Betty. So now Betty takes, I guess, because Simon's ghost now appears and then Betty's able to kill Callum, and that kind of gives her like the justice. You know what I mean? Like, it is kind of like an interesting concept, because you would think that once Viv kills Simon that Betty would be at rest, but she's very clearly not. And so what is it about taking is it because now that Simon's ghost is there and Simon's body was taken from, his body was not left there, so now she just needed his soul with her in order to like feel at rest. So because of Callum's presence at the motel, it kind of brings Simon back. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I think that's kind of how I would look at it then, because like you would wonder why she's still haunting if her murderer was taken out.
Yeah, I think part of it was because not only the justice for her, but for the other women. Like, that day, the cops still had no resolution for any of these things. They had no leads. They hadn't connected all the murderers together. So I think that Betty was just upset that with Simon dying, there goes all the justice. And then she was probably like, now I'm going to have to deal with his ghost? I can't be around this motherfucker. I got to get rid of this place.
Yeah. So the Sundown Motel gets destroyed. Viv and Carly go to the police station because Nick has been arrested because he was there when Callum's body was found. So of course they're like, well, you clearly killed this guy.
Because we know that the cops don't like to look around. No. They're there for the easy route.
Exactly. So Viv decides that she's going to confess, and she's taken to prison, and the DNA from Simon matches the DNA from Betty, Kathy, and Tracy's cases, and her confession to murdering Simon leads to the reopening of Victoria's case as well. So that kind of now is tied up neatly with a bow. Nick gets an apartment in Fell, and Carly moves into Viv's old place that she was living at. And of course, the book ends with them beginning to date and planning for a future as the Sundown Motel is demolished.
And staying in Fell. You'd think you'd want to get the fuck out of there, but okay.
Yeah, I know. But there was a really interesting quote. I wish I could remember what it was, but Heather says in the book, like, Fell chooses who it wants to like stay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if you're not from here. And that was kind of how Viv was, and that's now how Carly is. Like, she comes to this town and it just kind of speaks to her. And that's why, like, I really think that the town of Fell is its own character. So that's why I'm kind of happy that she wrote another story in this town.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before we get into a few things that I want to talk about, I have a couple of quotes from Simone St. James specifically about the book. So before then, let's take an ad break.
Let's do it. Here on Fully Booked and Caffeinated, we're constantly on the go, but sometimes we just need to unwind and relax with a good book. Enter Good Feels THC infused seltzers. Good Feels is committed to redefining the way you relax. Made with all natural ingredients and offering flavors like dragon fruit raz, pineapple mango, and blood orange, these drinks are the cornerstone of great taste and tranquility. Not in the mood for bubbles? Good Feels also offers gummies and mood booster drops to add to your favorite beverage. Whether you're looking to unwind after a long day, enjoy a night in with friends, or just need a little something to take the edge off, Good Feels Cannabis Seltzers are perfect for any occasion. And we've got an exclusive promo code for listeners of the pod. Go to shop.getgoodfeels.com and use promo code CAFPOD for 20% off. 21 and over only. Again, that's shop.getgoodfeels.com, promo code CAFFPOD. Try it out and let us know your favorite time to unwind with a Good Feels Cannabis Seltzer.
You know when you have that midday crash and need something quick to perk you up? Well, enter Quantum Squares. Quantum Squares is an energy bar that is redefining the typical energy snacks by offering a scientifically formulated recipe with 100 milligrams of organic caffeine, which is the equivalent to an 8-ounce coffee, for long-lasting, stable energy. These bars deliver balanced nutrition by featuring 10 grams of plant protein, healthy fats, and complex carbohydrates, with flavors such as peanut butter, dark chocolate, and dark chocolate pink Himalayan salt. And for all our food ingredient sensitive listeners, Quantum Squares are certified gluten-free, non-GMO, plant-based, kosher, vegan, dairy-free, and soy-free, with no artificial additives or sugar alcohols. If these energy bars sound like something for you, we have an exclusive 25% discount off any product for our listeners with the promo code CAFPOD. So head on over to quantumsquares.com to shop their delicious products and use our exclusive discount. Again, that's Quantum Squares, QUANTUMSQUARES.com, promo code CAFPOD.
All right, and we're back. Okay, so there were a few discussion or not even that. Simone St. James did her own highlights on Goodreads for this book specifically, and then put like her own commentary on them, which I thought was really cool. And I didn't know that authors could do that, and I wish more of them did it, to be quite honest. So there's like she did like 21 of them. I pulled 3 that I really liked, but like I thought it was really interesting that she actually went through, and that was how I found out about the nod to Michelle McNamara, because she brings up when she talks about like the owners, like that was why she gave them that last name. That was like a nod to her. But anyways, so there's like a couple quotes from the book that she highlights, then she talks about. So the first one is, the quote is, "The person who could be truly alone in the company of no one but oneself and one's own thoughts. That person was stronger than anyone else, more ready, more prepared." So Simone St. James says, "In my early 20s, I worked night shifts at a now defunct TV station for almost 2 years. I was the new kid on the job. I had no husband or children, and I had nowhere else to be, so I was given the shifts no one else wanted. No one cared that a young woman who couldn't afford a car had to get to and from work alone in a bad part of town in the middle of the night. For a long time, I had the itch to write a ghost story about people who work at night. I didn't meet anyone or date for those 2 years. I didn't party with friends, and I didn't spend holidays with family because I was working the holiday shifts. I was like a rogue satellite that has left orbit. It seemed like a great setup for a scary story. The idea for the Sun Down Motel came from my love of true crime, ghost stories, Stephen King books, Stranger Things, and Psycho, but the idea's magic happened when I created the character of Viv and made her just as deeply lonely as I had been, and when I created the other night shift characters. That loneliness became one of the themes of the book, and it has resonated with so many readers. So Viv is basically Simone St. James.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, that character is her.
I like that.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because she's kind of saying, like, so Viv is literally alone. She's working this graveyard shift by herself, set 6 days out of the week. I think she gets like 1 day off. And it's kind of like crazy to know that that's also like what the author experienced. And then she has a point where she says it's actually insane that she had a real life job where they're making this young woman work this night shift by herself.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Because that was crazy to me when, like, they just let Viv just work this night shift by herself. You know, obviously, this shouldn't even be a worry that we as women collectively have. But unfortunately, we have to. So it's actually almost unfortunate that my reaction has to be that. Like, oh my God, they're letting this poor girl work by herself. Why? If it was man, it would be no different. So it's also just very interesting that is, she took this experience of her own to create this story. Mm-hmm. I love it even more because of that.
Yeah. I also think, to her point about the loneliness, what you said before about the fact that it was so easy for Viv to not disappear, but to continue to live in Fell, because she didn't make any of those deep connections besides with just those two people
who covered for her.
Yeah, and who were in on it or whatever. But without them and without the case to bond them, she would have had no one. And she wasn't fulfilling her dreams that she always had. So she needed something to focus her, her mind in on. And it is isolating.
I agree. There's a part in the book where Viv is very clearly researching the murders, and she has like a little blurb where she says, how it didn't matter how afraid or how careful you are, it could always be you, meaning like being a girl who's murdered. And Simone says, this is another theme of the book, that the average woman is, in her own way, an expert in crime. Both Viv and Carly come to realize this fact as they learn to rely on their own instincts, born of always being aware of danger. This is also one of the reasons that the true crime genre is so popular with women, something I could go on and on about. I love true crime, and I really wanted to read a novel that gave me that same thrill while also being a satisfying mystery. I couldn't find that book, so I wrote it. which is wow, how I come up with most of my ideas. But yeah, like, that's so true, because you have these two girls who come from like this, they're basically leaving a small town and coming to another small town. But in this small town, there is this ominous feeling, and there's a lot of death in this town, specifically of young women. And so now they have to become aware of their surroundings and how dangerous it is to be a woman.
And to her point of, that is how it is in the real world, even if you're not a woman who's obsessed with true crime, which, like, that is its whole separate thing, and the reason that we try to learn so much about it, because the more you know about it, the more prepared you feel. But even people who aren't obsessed with true crime, there's not a single woman in the world that you could talk to and say, hey, when you've walked to your car at night, have you put your keys in between your knuckles? Have you pretended to be on a phone call when you thought someone was following you? Like, we have these innate instincts because we have been taught, because of this fucking society that we live in, that we always have to be on guard. And men, young boys, do not grow up like that, because they are taught that they are the mightiest and most powerful thing in any fucking room, in any situation. And we are brought up in fear.
Yeah. 100%. And for me, a new fear that's been unlocked for me since becoming a mom is that my kid could just get snatched from me.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you also have these crazy people that kidnap children, and you have fucking human trafficking. And I have a beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed daughter.
Mm-hmm.
She is the epitome of what everyone wants.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like I am just consistently scared to death, and I am constantly watching over my shoulder every single time I leave this house without Eric. If I go to a store and I take Millie out, it is actually unbelievable the amount of anxiety I have and how many times I am consistently looking over my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Just because. And there was one instance where, and I think I talked about this before, where I felt like we were being followed, and I called Eric. I'm like, you need to come here now because I'm too scared to walk out of the store with Millie.
Mm-hmm.
Just, and it's so common for moms now, especially with like the whole trafficking. And, there have been instances in like locally of people seeing weird things at stores and feeling they're being followed. So it's just, being a woman is scary enough. Being a mom makes it exponentially worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, and that's, I should not have to fear like that. There's no reason for me to fear like that. Society made it like that. Because there's fucking evil people everywhere.
Yeah, and like to the point of, I mean, this book is to a T the fact that, men are scared that women are going to reject them, and women are scared that men are going to murder them. And that's exactly what Simon did to fucking Betty, because he didn't want to be rejected.
Yes.
And he couldn't handle that rejection, and he killed her. And it's
it led to like this, he got a big head about it. And he's like, oh, I am all powerful and women should bow down to me and look what I can do. And I'm going to take advantage of any woman I see that is vulnerable.
And how many times as a woman do you have to be nice to a man who's making you uncomfortable? Respond to someone fucking catcalling you or making inappropriate comments because you're scared of rejecting them and being harmed. And every single decision is a trust your instincts decision. Is it going to be safer for me to just go along with this? Because if I speak my mind and stand up for myself, then I'm putting myself in danger.
Right? It's actual insanity. Gotta
Being
love
a
this
woman
world
in America is so great.
It's so much fun.
Why did they ever give us the right to vote? What are we doing here?
The last one is, this is when Victoria got murdered. This is when so at this point in the book, this is regarding Victoria's murder, the young girl who got murdered on the jogging trail. Viv turned in a circle, the thoughts going inescapably through her mind. What would I have done? Because this could have been her storming out of the house at 18 after a fight with her mother, or leaving work, doing what women did every day. It could still be her now. It could be her tomorrow, or the next day, or the next. It could be Marnie. It could be Helen. It could be Viv's sister back home in Illinois. I was right. It was Illinois. This was the reality. It wasn't just these girls. It could always, always be her or someone she knew. Yep. And Simone says, I wanted to make a commentary here about how murder victims are portrayed, especially women. They are always described as bright, happy, kind, generous paragons. It bugs me. Flawed women don't deserve to get murdered either. So I made Victoria Lee someone who was more difficult to like, who was fighting with people in her life. She had a fight with her mother and never had a chance to make things right, which ties into the idea that it can be any of us on any bad day we might be having, which is also true.
I love that so much that she made a point to put this in here, because how often are women murdered and they're victim blamed, and especially sex workers. They never should have been in that, they deserve to die because they were out at night and trying to earn a fucking living, or, girls who are sneaking out and partying and deserve what they got, or who dress slutty or whatever. And it's like, if you can separate yourself from these other women and not realize that we are all the fucking same and it could happen to literally any single one of us, that's insane to me. Like, that's such a projection and a purposeful ignorance.
Mm-hmm. And to add on to that, there's also that whole commentary of when it's like an indigenous woman, a Black woman, a woman of a different race, it's not as important if it's not some white female who is popular and it shouldn't have been them. Well, who the fuck should it have been then? Like, why is there also this huge, issue of only looking into white women and their murders?
And, they had such a bright future and they were stolen from this world.
Yes.
And it's like, first of all, you have no idea what anyone could become when their life is cut short. And exactly to Simone St. James' point, even women who are complicated and have a complicated future and are struggling don't deserve to fucking die.
They don't.
And the fact, like, that is just such a level of privilege and a level of, like, haughtiness to think that you should have an opinion on who gets to live or die.
Yep.
Based on whatever idea you have of them in your head. And, like, there's also that kind of complicated thing of, like, you never want to speak ill of the dead, right? Like, you never want to say that the woman who was murdered was arguing with her mother, was, sneaking out and not listening and whatever. But it's like, women are complicated, complex people. Victims are complicated, complex people. And you can't boil them down to, she was such a shining personality, always lit up a room and lost her future. It's so much bigger than that.
It's so crazy, the narrative that sometimes people spin on these sort of things. So I mean, regardless, the fact is true, is that it could be anybody, and it's like, and it boils back to, like, what we've been saying. It sucks that just in general, us as women even have to fear like this. Like, we shouldn't have to leave our house and automatically have that instinctual fear. There's no reason for it. There's no reason that we can't all just cohabitate together without that lingering evil. But unfortunately, that evil is always going to live here and it's always going to be in existence.
Yeah, I mean, I am a woman who lives alone, and I think about it every single day.
As you should.
And how easy it would be for someone to know my routine and to clearly see that I live alone. And it's like, there's nothing I can do about it except be aware.
I know. But again, shouldn't even be a thing. Should not be a thing that we have to do. And yet. Anyways, I really liked those little things. And now I'm going to, like, check to see if any other authors ever do that. They probably don't.
I'm going to see if she's done it to her other books.
You
should.
For
sure.
Because literally, I, like, went on to Goodreads and I saw it and I was like, it like just said on her page, and this was on, like, the website, not, like, on my phone. This was on the computer. And it showed, like, Simone St. James had 21 highlights for this book. And I was like, that's cool. Let me see what she highlighted. And then, like, I was just expecting just to see quotes. I wasn't expecting, like, a whole commentary. I was like, this is really cool. But so she goes into more. I think you should even just look at this in general, because I'm sure it's just fun to, like, learn about her. But these three things were obvious themes about the book and that I wanted to talk about anyways. So it just kind of worked out that way. But yes. Anything else that you needed to discuss?
I did want to talk a little about the supernatural elements and what you thought of them in terms of, I know you talked a little bit about it, but in terms of, like, general paranormal horror,
I loved
supernatural things.
No, I love them. This is, like, my kind of, this is my kind of niche, like, when it comes to, like, because obviously we wouldn't call this horror, this book, but it is just, like, a supernatural entity.
Yeah, it has paranormal in it, so technically it is horror.
Yes. But like, and but if I were to, like, categorize myself in, like, a horror, this would be the niche that I like. I think I really like this kind of, and I just like paranormal and supernatural things because it's an interesting concept. And especially for people that like believe in ghosts. Like I've never experienced it, but I would believe in it, you know? So it's really interesting to see where authors can take it. And I think that, you know, it's just interesting because there was the only ghosts that haunt Sundown are the ones that have died there.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have like Betty, who is clearly the prominent one, the reasoning for all of it. But because she's haunting it, when those two deaths that have nothing to do with her happen there, they can't, you know, they're like, it's almost like their souls can't leave.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like interesting that when Simon dies, his ghost only shows up at this point in the book. You know what I mean? Like, so I like that. Like but I really enjoyed the paranormal parts of it. And it was well done.
Yeah, I think the difference in this book with other paranormal books is that these ghosts do have this emotional attachment, this emotional weight, and they are contributing to the story, and their fate is tied in with the story.
Yeah.
And so I do like that it's not just ghosts for ghost's sake or angry ghosts or whatever. Like
I agree.
They have this specific tie to the story. And Simone St. James, actually, I love the way that she does supernatural. All of her books are like, some of them have a little more, some have a little less, but all of them are this very light supernatural, where it's like, I love it because it's not unbelievable.
I agree.
Like it's so what you think of when you think of ghosts inhabiting a place, right? And I always tell people, like, this is definitely horror for beginners because it is a thriller and it does have a little bit of romance and a little bit of, all these things, but it has just that light supernatural that you wouldn't get the same story without it.
I agree. And that's why, like, I definitely will be picking up her books anytime I see them at like thrift stores or anything, because I was thoroughly impressed with it. And it, I like how you say like horror for beginners, because it's like, because that was why I like September House too, because all those ghosts in that book had a point. Like it wasn't just, like you said, being supernatural, just to like be supernatural. So
yeah, and I think with September House, they balanced, because that was obviously a lot more paranormal, but they balanced it with the comedy. So that's also kind of like a horror for beginners in a way of like, you're getting so much more ghosts, but you're not always taking them as seriously. Whereas in this book, these ghosts are being taken seriously because of the emotional weight that they hold.
I know. And it's like interesting too, because there's only like one instance in the book where Viv is physically harmed by them. And that's like when she's in like the ice machine room and everything. But again, that happens the night that Simon shows up. So there's like a reason why it's happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's I really liked it. Because I feel like, and it's also like interesting too, because like, when you think supernatural, for me, I'm like, oh, vampires, werewolves, things like that. And it's like, this is, I guess you're right. Like it is like a supernatural horror thriller.
Yeah.
But I liked it.
Great. All right. That's all I got.
All right. Our rating system is revenge ghosts.
Love a revenge ghost.
Revenge ghosts.
Speaking of women revenge ghosts, you have to read Haunting of Maddie Claire.
Oh, well, now I have to. Like, I'm definitely adding it to my, 100%.
Yeah, she got revenge on the mind. I rated this 4. I think because I read her other books around the same time and I liked those better. So that's why I went 4 with this one instead of 4.5. But like I said, I love the way that Simone St. James does horror, because it is so seamless and so believable and it's not over the top. And I also love that she can write these dual timelines and these like pretty complicated storylines, like a pretty complicated plot, but it's so easy to follow.
Yes.
And it shouldn't be. You know what I mean? Like there's so much going on, and then you realize that you're completely in it and haven't lost the thread of things. You know what I mean? So I think that she's just an amazingly skilled writer. This one I loved because it has the true crime angle, of course, and like we are true crime girlies.
And she's just like us.
Exactly. I'm like still thinking about that quote of like that she specifically wanted to highlight that this woman was not the perfect victim. I love that.
Yeah, and like I had mentioned on our Bookish Banter episode, like I have been in a reading slump, and once, you know, because even when I first started this book, I was kind of in like a bad place, and so, you know, I was like, all right, I have to get through this. I'm like, we're covering on the podcast. I have to read this book.
No excuses.
And then all of a sudden, I was like, oh shit, I got super into it. Couldn't put it down. I was like trying to do like only like I was trying to do a mentality of like, all right, well, at least read 50 pages a day, because like that's better than nothing, you know, it's at least something. And then like I just like blew through it in 2 days, and I was like, okay, that like surpassed my entire thought process because I was having such a hard time getting into books. So that says it right there, that she's going to be an author that I'm going to read, because she was able to pull me out of a slump, and we love that.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I also rated it 4 stars. You know, it's just, I couldn't give it like the full, just, you know, because I felt, obviously, there's how believable is it that a young girl is solving all these murders? You know, it's still hard for me to get behind that whole, you know, knowing nothing about crime and then just becoming like a crime person.
I believe that way more than her disappearing, quote unquote.
Oh yes, no, that's true. And that's also like, yeah, and I agree with that as well. But then I liked it because then on the flip side, because of her aunt's disappearance, Carly is like, oh no, I'm gonna go into like criminal. I'm like, as you should. Like, you know, it's like, so I gave it 4, and it's just very well written. I was really impressed with the timelines and how seamlessly they interwove, because, you know, sometimes that isn't done very well. But it was just all around like a really, really good book, and I was really impressed. And even though he was an evil piece of shit, I liked Simon's character. Like, I liked how he was portrayed. And
because it's a tale that we've heard so many times.
You know, and then as disgusting as it was, you know, when he's in that final scene with Viv and he's like, I did it because I could get it, because I could. And it's just like, you know,
it
how
sends
many
chills down your spine.
Because it's like, because it's not even just about the murder. It's just relative to now, and men are just raping women and just doing what they can because they can. And it's disgusting.
Because they get found guilty of rape and go to jail for 15 days.
They're never actually being held accountable. And in this book, Viv is fucking making him be held accountable. And so we golf clap. We applaud. But yeah, so that's where we're at.
I like it.
We like it.
And we love a book that pulls you out of your reading slump.
That we do. Those are my favorite kinds. So now I'm like ready to go. I'm like, let's read a million books, but also watch Summer House.
Exactly.
Once I'm done with Summer House, I feel like I'm going to have a little bit more of a life for a little bit until I start a new Bravo show.
Yeah, except Love Island UK and Love Island US are starting at the same time. So
yeah, that's all right. I feel like I don't get overwhelmed with them. Just because
like we're so used to it. We got
that's
this.
What it is. Yeah, I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll be watching all those. It's no problem. Don't worry about it. All right. Well, that's all we have for you today. If you like what you heard, please make sure to follow, subscribe, and rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you listen to us on. If you have any book recommendations or questions for us, you can email us at fullybookedcalfpod@gmail.com. Also, be sure to follow us on TikTok and Instagram at fullybookedcalfpod to see our upcoming reads. Thanks for checking us out, and remember,
if you need us, we're fully booked. Bye.
Bye.